With me here in the studio now is Abdulkader Assad. He's a senior writer at the Libya Observer. In London, we have Guma el Gamaty. He's the head of Libya's Taghyeer Party and a member of the UN-backed political dialogue group. And in Benghazi, we have Libya specialist Mansour el Kikhia. Gentlemen, I thank you all for joining us here on the Newsmakers. Abdulkader Assad, let me begin with you. Third ceasefire called in a week. The other two failed. Are you confident that this one will hold?
Well, actually, the ceasefire is just like, like blowing in an empty lane, let's say. Now, we have a malicious control on the government in Tripoli. That's what everybody should understand at this point. Now, what we have in Tripoli is not like something that the UN or the UN support mission can solve. It's just like beyond that, because if you look at the meeting that the UNSMIL held, it held it in Zawiya. It didn't even dare to hold it in Tripoli. So why being afraid? So we have here like militias or armed groups. They are vying for power and legitimacy. They're not like, they're not there to establish or pave the way for elections or constitution. No, they just want the two groups, they are allied. They want to take control of the places and locations and the camps that the other armed groups are taking in Tripoli, so that they can negotiate later and they can be part of the government of national accord that is really, let's say, clawing its way in Tripoli and taking its control by the militias.
Right.
So the militias are controlling the decision-making, they're controlling the state institutions, they are doing everything in Tripoli. And just at one point, let me refer you to a study by Small Arms Survey in April. It predicted what's happening in Tripoli now. It said that militias have turned into cartel, mafia network. They are spanning everything. They are controlling everything in Tripoli. The government and UNSMIL or United Nations Support Mission have nothing to do. And the ceasefire, I think, is just like a formal agreement so that can calm everybody until they can figure out what's going on.
Guma el Gamaty, the militias are calling the shots. Is that how you see it?
Oh, absolutely. There is no doubt about that. And the recent episode of violence is symptomatic of this control. And it's also symptomatic of the failure over the last 7 years of those who led the political scene to actually initiate any sort of institution building or state building, especially institutions concerned with security, rebuilding the army, rebuilding the police, rebuilding all the other security institutions that should be in charge of security of the citizens and security of the state institutions. Instead, we had a vacuum which was filled by militias. Militias have fought against each other and have fought over the control of the capital, Tripoli, which is the biggest prize in Libya. And at one stage, we had militias from one city, then from another. And over the last 2 years, they were mainly for militias from within Tripoli itself. They have extended their control over almost all institutions, ministries, state companies, airports, ports, sovereign funds, you name it. And unfortunately, some of them, under the pretense that they are guarding and protecting these institutions, they have started to exert pressure and to gain special benefits, economic benefits, financial benefits, appointing their members to high jobs, and also at the expense of the ordinary citizens who couldn't get their cash and liquidity from banks and so on.
Okay, yeah, and when we look at it, the 7th Brigade, the Tripoli Revolutionaries Brigades and Nawasi Brigade, these are not the only militias at play. So it's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds. Mansour, you're in the east, you're in Benghazi. First of all, let me know how people in the east, under different control, are viewing what's happening in the west and the conflict and the clashes happening in Tripoli.
Well, to the truth, all the people I've spoken to, they're very sorry that this is taking place in the West. But it was a foregone conclusion. And if you remember on your show, I said the same thing 2 years ago. This is not a government of national accord. It's a government of national discord. And the problem is that the United Nations doesn't seem to understand this. Mr. Sarraj and his government should not be in Tripoli to be under the thumb of the militias. He should move out of it, not in Tunisia. He should come to the east. at least to some degree. Okay, you might say that Haftar is a militia. Okay, but we have one militia, not 50, not 100. And so it seems to me that all we can do over here is empathize. We say, we're sorry, but we have seen what the militias have done. I mean, I went to visit in Benghazi just the day before yesterday. My God, the destruction. The destruction was awful. I don't want to see Tripoli the same way. But there is no other way except if this guy leaves that government out of there and get out of Tripoli. That's the only way to do it.
Okay, is that the solution, Guma?
Absolutely not. For Sarraj to go to the east, he will be under the same control except different militias. He will be under the control of Haftar, his cousins and his sons, which they are doing already. They have been doing to the Atni government in Al Bayda. They have been doing to the parliament in Tobruk. Aguila Saleh, supposed to be the head of parliament and the highest and the most senior political figure in Libya. He is supposed to be the supreme commander of the army. Aguila Saleh is supposed to be the boss of Haftar and his sons, yet it's the other way around. Haftar is the boss. With his boot, he controls and orders everybody. So it's not going to be any better. But that's not the solution. The solution is to actually rebuild institutions concerned with security, police, army, intelligence, all other solutions. And it's a failure of all Libyans. It's the failure of the international community. It's a failure of the UN. And it's a failure because of the divisions we've been having all these years. And it's also because of the detrimental, very destructive regional interference we had, especially from some Arab countries, which have been fueling these divisions and these conflicts,
Juma,
which allowed these militias. What, which countries?
Yes.
All of them, many. Egypt, the Emiratis. Some even accuse Qatar and Turkey of giving political support to one side against the other. Whatever, any negative, destructive interference from wherever it comes, from Italy, from France, it's not helping. It's actually destroying. It's helping to deepen the conflict in Libya and prolonging the suffering, and it should stop. The international community should now revisit its attitude and its strategies towards Libya and should be all aligned to help the Libyans and not to tear them apart. And I think that's where the international community have failed us badly. Nobody is happy about the militias exploiting the government or institutions, whatever they are. By the way, they are doing exactly the same in the east. Haftar's sons are doing the same. Haftar's cousins are doing the same. So it's not any better. So no one can brag about the east being the ideal state that we are aspiring to and that the west is a total failure.
Abdulkader, after all these years, all these billions spent, after all the interference, after Gaddafi fell, and after Libyans were helped by the international community to get rid of him, where are we now? What's going on? How would you explain this to somebody from another planet trying to understand what's going on in Libya?
Actually, what's going on in Libya is plain and simple. I agree with the guest, Guma el Gamaty, that it's not a solution to go to the east or to the south. It's all malicious control. The solution is to have a Libyan call. Like it's not like a call that is coming from the international community or they facilitate work and they are doing an assistance in Libya, but they cannot give the call the shots. What Libya needs now, what's happening in Libya is a malicious controlling everything from the central bank of Libya, which is the top sovereign, let's say, institution, to decision-making in the government of national accord, which actually at the first place came to Tripoli through a deal with these militias. So you cannot separate the government of national accord from the militias. What we need now is a Libyan call to dissolve or disband these militias.
Yeah, but who's going to give up their guns first? I'm not going to give up my guns if you don't give yours first. If he doesn't give up his first, nobody's going to put down their weapons first.
But we're looking at help from the international community. Let's make the Security Council, the UN Security Council, commit these militias and these armed groups, east, west, and south, to lay down their arms and let's make the Libyan
lay down
government.
your arms, you get swallowed up, you get killed.
No,
by the other guy.
I mean, they said the UNSML yesterday said it will commit the warring parties to cease fire in Tripoli. Can it commit those warring parties to lay down their arms and be part of a like, let's say, a national army, a real national army, not a militia or tribal national army like in the East, or a militia control in the West? No, a real national army. Let's make the Security Council issue a resolution that commit all these people. They know them.
Okay.
They know the militias. They know the names.
Okay, so as things stand, looking at the actual people, because you've got a nice big idea, looking at the UN envoy Ghassan Salami, does he have the capability to actually get these people on the table and to say, listen, put down your weapons?
Absolutely.
So?
I mean, he has to brief the UN Security Council, as he does every month. He has to brief them and put it on the table. We have a malicious control in the east, south, and west of Libya. We need the UN Security Council to step in and take a decision and force those militias to lay down their arms.
Okay.
It's as easy as that. I mean, it doesn't take like, it doesn't take years.
Forcing them comes with the threat of some sort of stick, right? With the threat of some sort of international intervention.
I mean, let's say use whatever at hand. I mean, use the same method that you used to reach the ceasefire.
Okay. Mansour el Kikhia, the other two gentlemen are not as keen as you are, perhaps, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you said for all its failings, there's a semblance of unity in the East. At least, as you said, it's under one militia. The other two gentlemen question that. Tell me what's so special about the East vis-a-vis the West, or are you just maybe gloating because the West is in chaos at the moment?
No, not at all. For me, it's the lesser of all of the two evils. I mean, and it's okay. I understand their concerns about Haftar. I have been hearing this nonsense for the last God knows how many years. Okay, stay in the system that you're in today, with militias dominating your lives by taking your money, determining what you buy, what you don't buy, what you pay, what you don't pay. Go ahead and do it. This is fine with me. You want to be separate as a government? Go to a separate country too. I'm not thinking this way. I'm thinking in terms, what is the possibility of a government operating? Okay, fine. You can operate here because there's a belief that your government can operate in the East far more successfully than it will operate in the West. You want to remove those militias. With what? You're quite right. What are you going to remove them for? Unless you bring in an army from the outside to occupy Libya, they're not going to go away. It seems to me that ultimately we have to choose the lesser of the two evils. The lesser of the evils is the East, is Haftar. You don't like him, that's okay. But Haftar can do some things and can't do other things. He's stuck. I mean, over here, there is some civil society taking place over here. Whatever Mr. Gamaty wants to believe or not, this is his business. But there is a civil society over here. There are no militias over here. Haftar's sons may have influence. Okay, I understand that. But how much influence do they have? So it seems to me that the logical thing for Mr. Sarraj and his government is to move somewhere where he can generate due policy, that you starve those militias of money, you keep away the money from them. This is very important.
Okay.
I mean, ultimately, do you want a Libya?
Okay,
or do you want a separate Libya?
Okay, Juma, we have the idea from Mansour that Haftar is the lesser of two evils. You don't like him. It's not pretty, but guess what? There's a bit more law and order in the East, something that's clearly not at play in the West.
Well, for the last 4 years, we had a government in the East based in Al-Bayda, a government, a government which is recognized by Haftar and by the parliament and by Aguila Saleh. Now, ask Mansour and ask anybody else how effective that government has been. Well, how much has it done for the people of the East? So, you know, you can't fool anybody about that. That's not a solution. We don't have to choose between two evils. We have to go for what we really need, and the best solution is to actually have neither of the evils and start straight away, which is 7 years late, to reactivate, to empower the police service and all the security services which are concerned with the security of the citizens and the security of institutions. That is the main thing. Now, we can learn, we Libyans can learn from other experiences. The UN is familiar with those experiences. For example, in Rwanda, they had a horrific civil war, over 1 million people killed. They have so many militias, and the UN helped to empower the police force and disarm over 120,000 members of militias. What we need in Libya is to simultaneously empower the police service and all the security institutions, official security institutions, empower them with international community backing. At the same time, threaten those militias if they do not disarm, if they do not move away from these institutions which they control now. They will be accountable to international community. They will be accountable by sanctions or even by bringing criminal charges. I mean, the ICC has arrest warrants against individuals in Libya, and the UN knows very well in detail who these militia leaders are, who the culprits are, who the bad ones are. We all know them. They don't need our help even to know them. They know them chapter and verse. So all we need is action and being active. What we need is serious international community will to stabilize Libya and get it sorted. Unfortunately, that international will has not been there. Ghassan Salama, without the backing of the major countries in the world. The UN, what is the UN? The UN is the major, strongest countries in the world who control it. Unless they are aligned about Libya, they have the same strategy towards Libya. Unless they have a sincere intention and will to stabilize Libya, nothing will happen, unfortunately.
Abdulkader Assad, in the short term, does your country need international peacekeepers?
I mean, actually, that could be an idea if threats of like committing the militias didn't work. I mean, that's an idea. But let's just like I want to touch upon a very, very small point. Like in the East, it's not heaven in the East. Let's look at the parliament in the East that is supposed to be helping the Libyans to put an end to the transitional phase that's going on now. It's been like 3 months, and the HOR in Tobruk could not reach full quorum, could not reach the number of members in the parliament to pass a referendum law for the constitution. So Libya doesn't have a constitution because of the East-based HOR. How can you take the government to the East? How can you leave the militias control the capital of Libya and ask the government to move to the East to have like under what control? So the East is not functioning as much as the West is. So that's the idea. Peacekeepers or no peacekeepers, this is not the idea. The idea is to have the international community understand what is the point in Libya. The point is not facilitating elections and rushing to elections now. The point is treating the problem. The problem is malicious control and arms. Arms that are everywhere in the city, in the capital, and in Libya.
Okay. Well, dozens have been killed. People are displaced. There's chaos in Tripoli at the moment. The militias are, for the moment, their guns are down. But we don't know if they're going to pick them up again. And we'll be watching this closely. For the moment, Abdulkader Assad, Guma el Gamaty, and Mansour el Kikhia, I thank you all for joining us here on the Newsmakers.